when successful CEO Amara Cole declared into a live microphone, "I would never have kids with a white man." She thought her biggest problem would be damage control. She had no idea that the quiet janitor mopping floors in the back of the room would become the man who'd make her question everything she believed about love, family, and second chances. What started as a career-ending scandal became a journey that would test whether two broken hearts from different worlds could build something beautiful together, if the forces trying to tear them apart didn't destroy them first. But when an anonymous complaint threatens to rip his 6-year-old niece from the only stable home she's ever known, Amara faces an impossible choice: save her billion-dollar empire or fight for the family she never knew she wanted. Some love stories begin with a mistake that changes everything. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story of choosing courage over comfort will leave you believing in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. The microphone was supposed to be off. Amara Cole stood at the front of the company auditorium, watching 200 faces stare back at her. Board members in their dark suits, employees with their phones out. The quarterly meeting was almost over. Just one more question. "Ms. Cole," a voice called from the back, "what about your personal plans? Marriage? Children? Our shareholders like to know their CEO has stability." The question hit like a slap. Amara's jaw tightened. She'd built this company from nothing, turned it into a $50 million business, and they wanted to know about her womb. "My personal life," she said, leaning toward the microphone, "is my business. But if you must know," the words came out hot and sharp, like broken glass, "I'd never have kids with a white man. My family's mess cured me of that." The room went dead quiet. Amara's stomach dropped. She looked down. The little red light on the microphone was blinking. On, not off. Every word had been recorded. At the back of the room, Luke Bennett paused his mopping. He'd been cleaning the floors, trying to stay invisible like always, but he'd heard every word. His hand tightened on the mop handle. He didn't look angry, just tired, like he'd heard this kind of thing before. "Thank you, everyone," Amara said quickly. Her voice shook just a little. "That's all for today." People started moving, talking. The sound filled the room like buzzing bees. Zara Lynn, Amara's best friend and COO, rushed to the stage. "Amara," Zara whispered, grabbing her arm. "The mic was live. Did you know the mic was—" "I know." Amara's face felt hot. "I know." Behind them, the AV tech unplugged equipment with shaking hands. He kept looking at his phone, at the recording app that was still running. Luke finished mopping his section. He rolled his cart toward the exit, footsteps quiet on the wet floor. Some of the board members looked at him as he passed, like they were seeing him for the first time. He was tall, strong shoulders, gentle hands that knew how to fix things. His skin was pale, dotted with freckles from working outside during summer jobs. His hair was dark brown, a little messy from the work cap he wore. But none of that mattered to him. He just wanted to finish his shift, get home to his 6-year-old niece Ava and his sister Molly. They needed him. Amara watched him leave. Something twisted in her chest. Shame, maybe, or regret. In the PR room, Zara paced like a caged cat. "We can fix this," she said. "We'll call it off the record. Say you misspoke. Blame it on stress." Amara sat in a chair that cost more than most people's cars. Her designer dress felt tight. Her gold jewelry felt heavy. "But I didn't misspoke," she said quietly. "What?" "I meant what I said. About my family. About—" She stopped, shook her head. "Never mind." Zara knelt beside her chair. They'd been friends since college, since before Amara wore $1,000 suits and lived in a penthouse. "Talk to me," Zara said. Amara stared at her hands. Perfect nails, perfect rings, everything perfect on the outside. "My parents," she began. "You remember how they were. Dad's white, mom's black. They married young, had me young, and then they spent 30 years making each other miserable." The memory hit her like a cold wave. Her father, Harold, always working, always disappointed. Her mother, Sarah, always angry, always fighting. "They stayed together for appearances," Amara continued, "for business, for me, but there was no love, just cold duty." Zara nodded. She remembered the Cole family dinners, the silence that felt like winter. "That's not every couple," Zara said gently. I know, but it's what I saw. Every day for 18 years. Amara stood up, smoothing her skirt. I swore I'd never repeat their mistakes. Through the glass wall, they could see people in the hallway, talking, pointing at their phones. Word was spreading fast. Mr. Rivas, the facility supervisor, found Luke in the service corridor. He was a kind man with worried eyes. Luke, he said, we need to talk. About the meeting, Luke asked. About staying invisible. Media might come sniffing around. You know how it is. Luke nodded. He'd worked night shift for 3 years. He knew how to be invisible. It kept him safe, kept his paycheck steady, and he needed that paycheck. I'll stay out of the way, Luke promised. But even as he said it, he thought about Amara's face when she'd looked at him. She'd seemed surprised, like she was seeing something she hadn't expected. Amara took the service stairs instead of the elevator. She needed air, space, time to think. On the 4th floor landing, she stopped, pressed her back against the concrete wall, closed her eyes. Her phone buzzed, text from Zara. Legal says we can contain this, don't worry. But Amara was worried, not about the company, not about the board, about the look on that janitor's face, the tired sadness in his eyes. She'd hurt someone she didn't even know. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell, slow and steady. Luke appeared around the corner, carrying his cleaning supplies. He saw her and paused. They looked at each other for a long moment. Ma'am, he said quietly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean white handkerchief, offered it to her. Amara realized she was crying. When had that started? Thank you, she whispered, taking the handkerchief. It smelled like laundry soap and kindness. Luke nodded once, then continued down the stairs. Amara pressed the soft cloth to her eyes. It was the first gentle thing anyone had offered her all day. An hour later, Amara found herself in the company cafeteria. She never ate here, usually had lunch delivered to her office, but tonight felt different. She needed to be around normal people, normal problems. The cafeteria was nearly empty, just a few late workers grabbing coffee, and a young woman with a toddler. The woman looked stressed, tired. She was trying to juggle papers, a coffee cup, and a squirming 2-year-old boy. Just 5 minutes, she whispered to the child. Mommy needs 5 minutes to finish these forms. The boy was getting fussy, reaching for things, making noise. Then it happened fast. The child grabbed a handful of crackers from his mom's bag, shoved them all in his mouth at once. Too many, too fast. He started choking. The mother screamed. Amara rushed over, but someone was already there. Luke. He'd been emptying trash cans nearby. His movements were calm. Sure. He turned the boy around, held him carefully, and gave firm pats between his shoulder blades. Once, twice, 3 times. The crackers came up. The boy started crying, loud, healthy crying. There we go, Luke said softly. You're okay, buddy. You're okay. The mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Amara knelt beside her, rubbing her back. He's fine, Amara said. He's breathing. He's fine. Luke was checking the boy over, looking in his mouth, making sure nothing was left. Should we call someone? The mother asked. The building nurse, Amara suggested. She was already dialing. A small girl appeared at Luke's side. She had his same dark hair and green eyes. She wrapped her arms around his leg and held on tight. Uncle Luke, she whispered, was the baby scared? A little, Luke said, stroking her hair. But he's better now. Eva, sweetheart, another voice called. A woman approached, thin, nervous-looking. Don't bother your uncle while he's working. This had to be Molly, Luke's sister, Eva's mom. Amara could see the family resemblance, but also the tension, the worry lines around Molly's eyes. They're not bothering anyone, Amara said quickly. Luke just saved this little boy's life. Molly's face relaxed a little. He's good at that, taking care of people. The building. Nurse arrived and checked the toddler, declared him perfectly fine. The mother thanked Luke over and over, tears still streaming. As the crowd dispersed, Amara found herself walking with Luke toward the vending machines. Eva skipped ahead of them, humming a song from school. At the vending area, one of the coil mechanisms was jammed. A candy bar hung half out, taunting whoever had lost their money. Luke pulled a small tool from his pocket, something that looked like a tiny screwdriver. He worked the mechanism gently until the candy bar dropped. He handed it to Eva. "For being brave during the scary part," Eva beamed. "Thank you, Uncle Luke." Amara reached for her wallet. "Let me pay you for—" "No, ma'am," Luke said. He was putting his tool away. "Just helping out." "At least let me know your name," Amara said. "Luke. Luke Bennett." He gestured to Eva, who was unwrapping her candy. "This is my niece, Eva. I'm Amara Cole." Something flickered across Luke's face. Recognition. He knew who she was now, the woman who'd said those words about white men, about never having children. But he didn't walk away, didn't look angry. "Nice to meet you, Ms. Cole," he said simply. They walked toward the lobby together. Eva chattered about her day at school, about art class and the paper crowns they were making, about her best friend Marcus who had lost a tooth. Normal kid stuff, happy kid stuff. Amara found herself smiling, really smiling for the first time all day. But as they reached the elevator bank, she noticed something. A young man with a phone standing by the coffee shop. He was pointing the camera their way. "Eva, honey," Molly called. "Time to go." The elevator doors opened. Luke and Eva got in. Molly followed. "Thank you," Molly said to Amara, "for staying with that mother, for being kind." Before Amara could answer, the doors closed. But the man with the phone was still there, still filming. Amara's stomach tightened. She pulled out her own phone, called Zara. "We might have another problem," she said. By 9 o'clock that evening, Amara was in her penthouse apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Chicago skyline. City lights sparkled like diamonds. She'd ordered dinner from her favorite restaurant, salmon with quinoa, expensive wine, everything perfect. But she couldn't eat. Couldn't stop thinking about Luke's gentle hands helping that choking child, about Eva's bright smile, about Molly's tired but grateful face. Her laptop sat on the marble kitchen counter. She'd been avoiding it for hours. Finally, she opened it. The video was already there, posted on some gossip blog, the hot mic moment from the board meeting. Her words, clear and sharp. "I'd never have kids with a white man. My family's mess cured me of that." The comments were brutal. "Racist CEO thinks she's too good for white men." "Typical. She took white money to build her business but won't take a white husband." "Hope the board fires her. Racist butt." Amara closed the laptop with shaking hands. Her phone buzzed. Zara texting. "Don't read the comments. We'll handle this in the morning." But Amara couldn't handle waiting until morning. She felt sick, ashamed. The words she'd spoken came from hurt, not hate. But how could she explain that? How could she make people understand? She thought about Luke again. The kindness in his eyes when he'd offered her his handkerchief. The patience in his voice when he'd spoken to Eva. He was exactly the kind of man her cruel words had painted as unsuitable, and he was probably the best man she'd met in years. Across town, Luke sat at his small kitchen table. Eva was asleep in her bed. Molly was on the couch, working through her recovery workbook. His phone buzzed. A message from someone he didn't know. "Hey, are you the janitor in the video with the CEO? Want to tell your side of the story? Good money." Luke deleted the message without answering. He'd seen the clip too. Read some of the comments. People were calling him the janitor, like it was an insult, making up stories about him. But what bothered him most wasn't what strangers thought. It was remembering the pain in Amara's voice when she'd made that statement, the way she'd looked so small and lost in the stairwell afterward. She was hurting. He could see it, and hurt people sometimes said things they didn't mean. He'd been hurt before, said things he didn't mean, made mistakes he still regretted. Everyone deserved a second chance. Luke turned off his phone and checked on Eva one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, clutching a stuffed elephant he'd bought her at a thrift store. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. But tonight, his family was safe and warm. That was enough. In her penthouse, Amara stood at the window. The city looked beautiful and cold, like a postcard of someone else's life. She thought about Eva's paper crown project, about Luke's gentle hands, about second chances and choosing kindness over fear. Maybe it wasn't too late to fix this. Maybe tomorrow could be different. Maybe she could be different. The first part of their story was ending, but Amara Cole and Luke Bennett didn't know yet that their real story was just beginning. The next morning hit like a storm. Amara walked through the HQ lobby at 7:40, her heels clicking on marble floors. Employees whispered behind cupped hands. Phones appeared and disappeared like magic tricks. She kept her chin up, shoulders straight, but inside, her heart hammered against her ribs. Zara met her at the elevators, coffee in hand and worry in her eyes. "How bad?" Amara asked quietly. "The clip has 2 million views," Zara said. "Trending on 3 platforms. The board wants to meet at 10. Amara nodded. She'd expected this, prepared for it, sort of. "Any word from him, Luke?" "Mr. Rivas says he's keeping Luke away from cameras. Smart move." But as they rode the elevator up, Amara wondered if hiding was really the answer. Maybe hiding was part of the problem. Down in the basement, Luke pushed his cart through empty hallways. The overnight shift was quieter, safer. Fewer people to stare or whisper or take pictures. Mr. Rivas had pulled him aside before his shift started. "Stay in the back areas," he'd said. "No public floors today, just until this blows over." Luke had agreed. He needed this job, needed the health insurance for Eva, needed the steady paycheck that kept their small family afloat, but part of him felt like he was being punished for someone else's mistake. At 10 in the morning, Amara faced the board. 12 people in expensive suits sitting around a table that cost more than most cars. "The video is damaging our brand," said Margaret Wells, the lead board member. Her voice was cold as winter. "Associates are asking questions. Clients are concerned." "About what, exactly?" Amara asked. "About leadership that makes inflammatory statements. About CEOs who can't control their personal opinions in professional settings." Amara's jaw tightened. It was a private moment, a question I never should have been asked. "But you answered it," Margaret continued, "and now we're dealing with the fallout." Around the table, heads nodded, like a pack of wolves smelling blood. "What do you suggest?" Amara asked. "Distance yourself from the janitor, publicly. Show that your personal views don't affect business operations." The words hit like a slap. Distance herself from Luke, the man who'd shown her more kindness in one evening than these people had in years? "I'll consider it," Amara said, but even as she spoke, she knew she wouldn't. Couldn't. After the meeting, Amara took the long way back to her office, through the main floors, past the break rooms and copy centers where real work happened. She found Luke in a vendor corridor helping Mrs. Chen with a heavy box of snacks for her cart. "Easy does it," Luke was saying. "OSHA would have my head if they saw you lifting this alone." Mrs. Chen laughed. She was 73 and stubborn as concrete. "In my day, we didn't have safety rules for every little thing." "In your day, you were probably stronger than me," Luke teased. That's when he noticed Amara watching. His smile faded a little. Not from anger, from uncertainty. "Miss Cole," he said politely. "Luke." She looked at Mrs. Chen, who was studying them both with sharp eyes. "Mrs. Chen, how are you today?" "Better now," the older woman said. "This young man brings sunshine wherever he goes." Luke's cheeks turned pink. "I just help where I can." "That's what I mean," Mrs. Chen said. She patted Luke's arm like a grandmother would. "Some people take. This one gives." After Mrs. Chen rolled her cart away, Luke and Amara stood in the hallway. The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. "I'm sorry," Amara said finally. "For what?" "For what I said. For the mess it's caused you." Luke studied her face, saw the exhaustion there, the genuine regret. "You didn't say anything about me personally," he said. "You were talking about your family. You're hurt." The kindness in his voice almost broke her. When was the last time someone had seen her pain instead of just her mistakes? "Still," she said, "I'm sorry." Luke nodded. "Apology accepted." They walked toward the lobby together, not planning to, just falling into step naturally. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said. "Why do you work nights? The cleaning company offers day shifts too." Luke was quiet for a moment. "Eva goes to bed at 8. I like to be there for that. And Molly, she's working on some things, recovery things. I try to be home during the day in case she needs help." "Recovery?" "Addiction. She's been clean for 8 months now, longest stretch since Eva was born." His voice was careful, like he was testing how much truth she could handle. "That must be hard for all of you. Harder for her than for me. I just try to keep things stable. Kids need stable." They reached the elevator bank. Luke's shift was ending. Amara's real workday was beginning. Coffee sometime? She asked. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Luke looked surprised, then careful. People are watching everything we do right now. I know, but coffee's just coffee, right? A small smile touched his lips. If it's just coffee. That evening, Luke sat in his apartment kitchen helping Eva with homework. Math problems about apples and oranges. Simple addition that felt like rocket science when you were 6. If Tommy has 4 apples, Luke read, and Sarah gives him 3 more, how many does Tommy have? Eva counted on her fingers. Her tongue stuck out in concentration. 7. That's right. Good job. Molly emerged from her bedroom, hair damp from a shower. She looked better these days, clearer. The gray shadows under her eyes were fading. How was work? She asked Luke. Quiet, same as always. But that wasn't quite true. Nothing felt the same anymore. Not since he'd started noticing Amara Cole as a person instead of just the boss lady in expensive clothes. Molly poured herself tea and sat at the table. I saw the video, she said quietly. Luke tensed. Molly? She looked sad, hurt, not mean. Eva glanced up from her homework, sensing adult conversation she didn't understand. Can we talk about this later? Luke asked. Molly nodded, but she gave him a look that said they would definitely talk about this later. At 9 o'clock, Eva was tucked into bed with her stuffed elephant and 3 books Luke had found at garage sales. Molly was curled on the couch with her recovery workbook and herbal tea. Luke stepped onto the building's small rooftop. Other tenants had strung lights up here, put out a few chairs, made it into a community space. His phone buzzed, a text from a number he didn't recognize. This is Amara. Zara gave me your number. Hope that's okay. Still thinking about that coffee. Luke stared at the message for a long time. He could hear the city humming below, cars and sirens and life moving forward. He typed back, "Coffee sounds good. When?" The response came quickly. "Tomorrow? There's a place called Rosie's near the office. Know it?" Luke smiled. Rosie's was where he and Eva got pancakes on Saturday mornings, where Molly had her recovery meetings on Tuesday nights, a place that felt like home. "I know it," he texted back. Wednesday morning brought rain, fat drops that drummed against windows and made the city look gray and soft. Amara canceled 3 meetings to make time for coffee. She told herself it was research, getting to know employees, understanding different perspectives. But as she sat in Rosie's cafe, watching rain streak the windows, she knew she was lying to herself. She wanted to see Luke again, wanted to understand the man who'd offered kindness without expecting anything back. He arrived 5 minutes early, shaking rain from a worn jacket. He looked around the cafe until he spotted her in a corner booth. "Sorry, I'm wet," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "It's just water," she said, then felt stupid for stating the obvious. They ordered coffee. Luke asked for black. Amara got something complicated with foam art. "This is my neighborhood place," Luke said, looking around. "Eva and I come here for pancakes sometimes." "How is she?" "Eva." "Good. Excited about a school show next week. They're singing songs about community helpers. She gets to wear a paper crown." Something warm spread through Amara's chest. "That sounds wonderful." "She'd love to meet you again. You made quite an impression." "I did?" "You listened to her. Really listened. Kids notice that." Their coffee arrived. Steam rose between them like morning mist. "Can I ask you something?" Luke said. "What you said in that meeting about your family, what did you mean?" Amara wrapped her hands around her mug. The warmth felt good. Grounding. "My parents have been married for 32 years, she said. "They've been miserable for about 30 of them." Luke waited, patient as a priest. "Dad's white, Mom's black. They met in college. Thought love could conquer everything." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Turns out love isn't enough if you don't actually like each other." "What happened?" "Life? Pressure? Expectations?" Amara stared into her coffee. "Dad's family never really accepted Mom. Mom's family thought she was betraying her culture. And my parents, they started believing what everyone else said." The rain outside grew heavier, washing the streets clean. By the time I was 10, they barely spoke except to fight. They stayed together for appearances, for business connections. For me. She looked up at Luke. I swore I'd never put a child through that, never marry someone just because it looked good on paper. Luke nodded, slowly. So when you said you'd never have kids with a white man, I meant I'd never repeat their mistakes. I'd never choose fear over love or image over truth. She paused. But it came out wrong, hurtful. Words do that sometimes, Luke said. Come out wrong when we're hurt. They sat quietly for a moment. The cafe hummed around them. Other conversations, other lives. What about you? Amara asked. Ever been married? Close once, few years ago. Sarah. Luke's face grew distant. She wanted stability, security. When she found out I was taking custody of Ava, she said it was too much responsibility. She left because of Eva? She left because I chose Eva, and I'd choose Eva again every time. The simple certainty in his voice made Amara's heart skip. Ava's lucky to have you, she said. I'm lucky to have her. She makes everything clearer, simpler. When they left the cafe, the rain had stopped. The city looked washed and new. Thank you, Amara said, for coffee, for listening. Thank you for explaining, for trusting me with your truth. They stood on the sidewalk, not quite ready to part ways. Luke, Amara said, what you did yesterday with the choking child, that was just helping. No, it was more than that. You saw someone in trouble and you acted, without thinking about yourself or what it might cost you. Luke shrugged. What else would I do? That was exactly the point. For Luke, kindness wasn't a choice, it was just who he was. As Amara walked back to her office, she felt something shifting inside her chest, like ice beginning to thaw. But the feeling didn't last long. By the time she reached HQ, Zara was waiting with her phone out and panic in her eyes. We have a problem, Zara said. She showed Amara the screen. A new photo was circulating online. Luke walking away from the building, alone. But the caption read, CEO's secret meeting with Janitor. What's really going on? Someone had been watching, waiting, taking pictures. How did they... Amara started. Does it matter? It's out there now. Amara stared at the image. Luke looked tired in it, sad, like a man carrying the weight of the world. The board is calling an emergency meeting, Zara continued. Margaret wants Luke suspended pending investigation. Investigation of what? Media distraction, unprofessional conduct. They're calling it a violation of workplace policy. Amara's hands started shaking. He didn't do anything wrong. I know that. You know that. But the board sees liability. Bad press. They want him gone. That afternoon, Luke got the call from Mr. Rivas. I'm sorry, Luke. It's not my choice. The board is requiring a suspension while they review the situation. Luke stood in his small kitchen, phone pressed to his ear. Ava was at school. Molly was at a meeting. The apartment felt too quiet. How long? He asked. Could be a week. Could be longer. Depends on how fast this media thing dies down. After Luke hung up, he sat at his kitchen table for a long time, the same table where he helped Ava with homework, where he and Molly planned their weeks and counted their money and made grocery lists. The suspension meant no paycheck, no health insurance, no certainty. It meant everything he'd worked for could disappear because he'd been kind to the wrong person at the wrong time. But even knowing that, Luke couldn't bring himself to regret helping the choking child, couldn't regret offering Amara his handkerchief when she cried. Some things were more important than safety, even if safety was all he'd wanted for the past 3 years. In her office, Amara stared out at the city. Rain was starting again, gray clouds rolling in from the lake. Her assistant knocked. Ms. Cole, the board meeting is in 10 minutes. Amara nodded. She knew what they wanted, knew what they expected her to say. But as she gathered her papers and straightened her jacket, she thought about Luke's gentle hands helping Mrs. Chen, about Ava's bright smile and paper crowns, about coffee that tasted like honesty and rain that washed things clean. Maybe it was time to stop choosing safety over truth. Maybe it was time to choose love over fear. The board meeting was about to begin, and Amara Cole was about to make a decision that would change everything. The storm hit Chicago like an angry fist. Amara stood in the boardroom, rain hammering the windows behind her. 12 faces stared back at her, waiting for answers she didn't want to give. The janitor situation needs to end, Margaret Wells said. Her voice cut through the room like ice. Distance yourself publicly. Issue a statement. Make it clear that personal relationships don't influence business decisions. Luke Bennett is a good employee, Amara said carefully. He's done nothing wrong. He's a distraction, a liability. Every photo, every rumor makes us look unprofessional. Thunder crashed outside. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. I won't throw an innocent man under the bus for a media circus I created, Amara said. Margaret's eyes narrowed. Then you're choosing him over this company, over your responsibility to shareholders. I'm choosing what's right. Right doesn't pay dividends, Amara. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in pale yellow. Through the windows, they could see the city going dark, block by block. Power's out on 3 floors, someone said, checking their phone. Margaret stood up, gathering her papers. We'll finish this discussion when the lights come back. But Amara, think carefully about your priorities. As the board members filed out, Amara remained at the window. The storm was massive, sheets of rain turning the streets into rivers. Her phone buzzed, a text from building security. Evacuation recommended for floors 1-3, flooding possible. Amara thought about Mrs. Chen and her snack cart, about the late workers who might still be downstairs. About Luke, somewhere in the building's lower levels. Instead of heading to the parking garage like everyone else, Amara took the stairs down. She found chaos on the 2nd floor. Water was seeping under the loading dock doors. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows. People were grabbing important files and heading for higher ground. And there was Luke, in the middle of it all. He had a flashlight in one hand and was directing a small group of workers toward the stairwell. His voice was calm, steady. Take your time, he was saying. Watch the wet spots. Everyone stays together. Mrs. Chen stood near her cart, looking lost. She was trying to save her snacks, but there were too many boxes. Mrs. Chen, Luke said gently, leave the cart. We'll come back for it when it's safe. But my inventory, she protested. My money. Amara stepped forward. I'll personally cover any losses, she said. Luke's right. We need to get you upstairs. Mrs. Chen looked between them, then nodded reluctantly. Luke offered her his arm. Easy does it, just one step at a time. They made their way to the stairwell together. Luke with Mrs. Chen, Amara helping a young intern carry a box of files. Other workers followed behind. The climb was slow. Mrs. Chen stopped every few steps to catch her breath. The intern's box was heavy and awkward, but Luke never hurried anyone, never showed impatience. You're doing great, he kept saying. We're almost there. On the 7th floor, they found a break room with working lights and no flooding. Luke settled Mrs. Chen in a comfortable chair and found her a cup of tea from the vending machine. My hero, she said, patting his cheek like a grandmother. Luke's ears turned red. Just helping. Most of the evacuated workers had family to call, rides to arrange, places to go. But Mrs. Chen lived alone. Her apartment was in a flooding zone. You'll stay with us tonight, Amara told her. I have plenty of room. Oh, I couldn't. You could and you will, no arguments. As the crowd thinned out, Luke and Amara found themselves alone in the dim break room. Rain still hammered the windows. The emergency lighting made everything feel surreal. Luke opened a vending machine with his little tool and pulled out crackers and water bottles, spread them on a table like a feast. Room service, he said with a small smile. They sat across from each other, sharing stale crackers while the storm raged outside. You didn't have to come down here, Luke said. Could have left with the board. Those people don't need my help. Mrs. Chen did. Luke studied her face in the emergency lighting, saw something real there, something true. You're not what I expected, he said quietly. What did you expect? Someone harder, colder, someone who wouldn't care about an old lady's snack cart. Amara wrapped her hands around a water bottle. I used to be harder, had to be to build this company, but somewhere along the way, I forgot why I was building it. Why were you building it? To prove something. To my parents, to myself. To show that a black woman could succeed in a white man's world. She laughed softly. Ironic, isn't it? I spent so much time proving I didn't need anyone. I ended up not having anyone. Thunder rolled overhead. The lights flickered but held. Is that why you froze your eggs? Luke asked gently. Amara looked surprised. How did you mentioned it yesterday at the coffee shop. Right. She was quiet for a moment. I thought I had time. Thought I could have everything on my schedule, my terms. Build the company first, find love later, control every variable. But you can't control love, Luke said. No, you can't. They sat in comfortable silence. The storm outside seemed to be calming. Rain gentler now, less angry. Luke, Amara said, can I ask you something personal? Shoot. Oh, at the coffee shop, you mentioned you might not be able to have children. What did you mean? Luke was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Construction accident a few years back, before I took the cleaning job. Injury to my, doctors said it might affect fertility. Never got tested to know for sure. But you chose to raise Eva anyway. Eva needed family. Biology doesn't make family. Love does. The simple truth of it hit Amara like a wave. She'd spent her whole life thinking children had to be planned, controlled, perfect. But Luke had simply seen a child who needed love and opened his heart. You're a good man, she said quietly. I'm a man who's been hurt and learned from it. That's different. How? Good men are born good. The rest of us have to choose it every day. The lights suddenly blazed back to full power. Both of them blinked, adjusting to the brightness. Luke stood up, started clearing the crackers and water bottles. Guess the party's over. But Amara didn't want it to be over. In the dim emergency lighting, sharing stale crackers, she'd felt more connected to Luke than she'd ever felt to anyone. Luke, she said, would you like to get dinner sometime? Real dinner, not vending machine food. He paused in his cleaning. People are already talking about us. More rumors might not be smart. Let them talk. I'm tired of making decisions based on what other people think. Luke smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. In that case, yes, I'd like that. They walked to the parking garage together. Luke's old truck looked tiny next to Amara's sleek sedan. Can I give you a ride? Amara asked. Save you from driving in this weather? Luke shook his head. Thanks, but I need to get to Eva, make sure she's okay. Of course. Family first. As Luke drove away, Amara stood in the parking garage watching his taillights disappear. Something had changed between them tonight. Something real and fragile and important. She drove to her penthouse thinking about crackers and flashlights and the way Luke's voice stayed calm even in chaos. The next morning brought news that made Amara's stomach drop. Child and Family Services, Zara said, pacing Amara's office. Someone filed a complaint against Luke. Anonymous tip saying he's an unfit guardian. What? That's ridiculous. Eva adores him. Doesn't matter. They have to investigate. And with all the media attention, Zara trailed off. They think the publicity makes him unstable, makes their family unsuitable for a child. That's exactly what they think. Amara sank into her chair. This was her fault. Her careless words, her stubborn refusal to distance herself from Luke, had put Eva at risk. There's more, Zara said quietly. The board met this morning. Emergency session. They're demanding you choose. Between what? Luke or the company? They want him gone, Amara, publicly gone, or they'll call for a vote of no confidence. Amara stared out at the city. Somewhere out there, Luke was probably getting the same devastating news, probably wondering how helping a choking child and offering kindness to a crying woman had led to his family being torn apart. Her phone buzzed. Text from Luke. Need to talk. Can you meet? She texted back. Where? School pickup, 3:15, please. At 3:15, Amara stood outside Eva's elementary school. Parents clustered in small groups, chatting about homework and playdates. Normal people living normal lives. Luke arrived, looking like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, worry lines around his mouth. How bad? Amara asked. CFS visit scheduled for tomorrow. They'll inspect the apartment, interview Eva and Molly, look for any sign of instability. Luke, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. No, it's not. His voice was firm. You didn't file that complaint. You didn't create this circus. But Amara felt the weight of responsibility anyway. She'd put Luke in an impossible position just by caring about him. The school doors opened. Children poured out like colorful confetti. Eva spotted Luke and ran toward him, backpack bouncing. Uncle Luke! She threw herself into his arms. Did you see the storm? It was so loud. I saw it, Luke said, hugging her tight. Were you scared? A little. But Mrs. Martinez said storms always end. They're just loud while they're happening. Ava noticed Amara and waved shyly. Hi, Mrs. Amara. Are you coming home with us again? Luke and Amara exchanged glances. How do you explain adult problems to a 6-year-old? How do you tell a child that the world is complicated and unfair? Not today, sweetheart, Amara said gently, but maybe soon. In Luke's apartment that evening, the atmosphere was tense. Molly paced the kitchen while Luke helped Ava with homework. Both adults were trying to act normal for Ava's sake. But Eva was 6, not stupid. She could feel the worry in the air. Uncle Luke, she said, putting down her pencil, are we in trouble? Luke's hands stilled on her math worksheet. Why would you think that? You and Aunt Molly keep whispering, and you look sad. Luke pulled Eva onto his lap. Sometimes grown-ups have to deal with complicated things, but you're not in trouble. And no matter what happens, we love you. What kind of complicated things? How do you explain bureaucracy to a first grader? How do you tell a child that strangers might decide her family isn't good enough? Some people think families should look a certain way, Luke said carefully, and our family looks different than what they expect. Because Mommy was sick and you take care of me instead? Something like that. Eva was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a piece of construction paper. I made this at school, she said, for our family project. The paper was covered in crayon drawings, stick figures with smiling faces, Luke, tall and thin, Molly with long hair, Eva small and bright, and in the corner, a figure in a business dress with curly hair. Is that Ms. Amara? Luke asked. Eva nodded. I put her in our family picture. Is that okay? Luke's throat tightened. Why did you put her there? Because she's nice to us. She listens when I talk, and she makes you smile. Molly stopped pacing and came to look at the drawing. Her eyes softened. It's beautiful, baby, she said. The most beautiful family picture I've ever seen. That night, after Eva was asleep, Luke and Molly sat in the kitchen drinking tea and planning for tomorrow's visit. They'll ask about my addiction, Molly said quietly, about why I can't take care of my own daughter. You are taking care of her, we all are, together. But they'll want to know why she's not with her father, why I couldn't stay clean when she was little, why, Molly. Luke reached across the table and took her hand. You're 8 months clean. You're in therapy. You're present and loving and trying every day. That's what matters. Is it enough? It's enough for Eva. It's enough for me. And if they can't see that, then they're not seeing clearly. Molly squeezed his hand. What about Ms. Cole, Amara? What about her? Are you going to keep seeing her, even if it makes things harder? Luke looked toward Eva's bedroom, thought about his niece's drawing, about how Amara's face had lit up when Eva gave her that paper crown, about crackers shared in emergency lighting, and the way Amara had insisted on helping Mrs. Chen. I don't know, he said honestly. I want to. But Ava comes first. Always. Maybe, Molly said slowly. Ava doesn't have to come first if she also comes along. Luke looked at his sister, really looked, saw the clarity in her eyes that had been missing for so long. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the question isn't whether Amara fits into your life. Maybe the question is whether your life is big enough for both of them. Luke thought about Eva's drawing, about the bright figure in the business dress standing with their little family. Maybe Molly was right. Maybe love wasn't about choosing. Maybe love was about expanding. Across town, Amara sat in her penthouse staring at her laptop screen. She'd written and deleted a dozen statements. Apologies, explanations, attempts to distance herself from Luke professionally while somehow protecting him personally. Nothing worked. Every version felt like a betrayal. Her phone rang. Her father. Amara, I saw the news, the board situation. Harold Cole's voice was measured, careful, the voice of a man who'd built his life on calculated risks and strategic decisions. Dad, I can't talk about this right. Come to dinner Sunday. You and I need to discuss some things. It wasn't a request. Harold Cole didn't make requests. He made statements that sounded like invitations but felt like commands. I don't think... Bring him if you want, the janitor. Let me meet the man who's worth risking your company for. The line went dead. Amara stared at her phone. Her father wanted to meet Luke. The man who'd spent her entire childhood showing her what a loveless marriage looked like wanted to meet the man who'd shown her what love could be. This was either going to be very good or very bad. And knowing her father, it would probably be both. Friday morning came too fast. Luke stood in his bathroom, trying to shave with hands that wouldn't stay steady. In 2 hours, the child and family services worker would arrive. In 3 hours, his whole world might change. Ava sat at the kitchen table eating cereal, her legs swinging under the chair. She'd laid out her favorite books and toys, wanting to show the visitor everything important in her life. "Uncle Luke," she said through a mouthful of cereal, "will the lady like my room?" "She'll love it," Luke said, though his voice sounded strange even to himself. Molly emerged from her bedroom wearing a clean dress and nervous energy. She'd been up all night organizing paperwork, recovery certificates, therapy records, proof that she was fighting every day to be better. "I keep thinking I should hide," she said quietly to Luke, "that Eva would be safer without my mess complicating things." "Your mess is part of our family," Luke said firmly, "and families don't hide from each other." At 7:30, Luke's phone buzzed, a text from Amara. "Thinking of you today. You've got this." He stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Thank you. For everything." He wanted to say more, wanted to tell her that her faith in him made him believe he might actually deserve the family he was fighting for. But there wasn't time for everything he wanted to say. There might never be time. The CFS worker arrived at exactly 10 o'clock. Ms. Rodriguez was younger than Luke had expected, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She spent an hour talking with Eva, who showed off her books and explained every drawing on the refrigerator. "This one's our family," Eva said, pointing to her latest creation. "That's Uncle Luke, that's Mommy, that's me, and that's Ms. Amara." "Who's Ms. Amara?" Ms. Rodriguez asked. "Uncle Luke's friend. She's really nice. She listens when I tell jokes." Ms. Rodriguez made notes but didn't comment. She interviewed Molly next, asking careful questions about recovery and support systems. Molly answered honestly, her voice steady even when the questions hurt. Finally, Ms. Rodriguez spoke with Luke alone in the kitchen. "You've built something beautiful here," she said. "Eva feels safe, loved, secure. Your sister is clearly committed to her recovery." Luke's heart hammered. But the media attention is concerning. Anonymous complaints suggest instability. My job is to evaluate what's best for Eva." "And what do you think is best for Eva?" Ms. Rodriguez looked through the doorway where Eva was reading to her stuffed elephant, completely content. "Honestly, this family, this home, but I have to file my report with the department and they'll make the final decision." After she left, Luke sat on his couch feeling hollowed out. He'd done everything right for 3 years, kept Eva safe, loved, fed, happy. But it might not be enough. His phone rang. "Amara." "How did it go?" she asked. "Hard to tell. She seemed positive, but the department makes the final call." "Luke, I need to tell you something. I'm going to make a statement, a real one, not corporate speak. The truth about what happened, what you mean to me, how sorry I am for the mess my words created." "Amara, no, that could cost you everything." "Some things are worth more than everything." Before Luke could argue, she'd hung up. At noon, Amara sat in the empty HQ break room with her phone propped against a water bottle. She'd sent everyone away. No cameras, no script, no PR team. Just her and the truth. She pressed record. "Hi, I'm Amara Cole. A few days ago I said something hurtful in a moment of pain. I said I'd never have children with a white man, and those words have caused hurt and controversy that I deeply regret." She took a breath, centered herself. "What I meant was that I was afraid. Afraid of repeating my parents' loveless marriage, afraid of choosing image over truth, convenience over connection. My parents are a biracial couple who stayed together for 30 years without ever really loving each other. That's what I was afraid of." The words felt strange and freeing. But I met someone who showed me the difference between fear and wisdom. Luke Bennett is the night janitor at my company. He's also one of the best men I've ever known. He raises his 6-year-old niece with his sister who's in recovery from addiction. He helps choking children, fixes stuck vending machines, and offers handkerchiefs to crying CEOs without expecting anything in return. Amara's voice grew stronger. Luke is white. I am black, and if I'm lucky enough that he'll have me, I would be honored to build a family with him. Not because of our races, but despite them. Because love isn't about what we look like. It's about who we are when no one's watching. She paused, thinking of Eva's drawing, of paper crowns and shared crackers. I've spent my career building a company. But Luke taught me that the most important thing you can build is a home, a place where people are safe and loved and accepted exactly as they are. I'm sorry for my careless words. I'm sorry for the pain they caused. And I'm grateful for the man who showed me what real love looks like. She reached for her phone to stop recording, then had one more thought. Oh, and Luke, if you're watching this, will you go to dinner with me Sunday? My father wants to meet you. She posted the video directly to her personal accounts, then sent it to the board with a simple message. Here's my statement. Accept it or accept my resignation. By 3 o'clock, the video had 1 million views. By 4 o'clock, Luke was standing outside Ava's school trying not to think about his phone buzzing with calls and texts. Ava ran toward him like always, backpack bouncing, face bright with joy. Uncle Luke, Mrs. Martinez said we're having a show next week. I get to wear my crown. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Will you come watch? Of course I will. Will Ms. Amara come too? Luke's throat tightened. I don't know, Eva, maybe. But as they walked toward his truck, he spotted a familiar figure by the school fence, Amara holding a coffee cup and looking nervous. Ava saw her too and broke into a run. Ms. Amara, you came! Amara caught Ava in a hug, laughing as the little girl nearly knocked her over. I saw your video, Luke said quietly as they walked together. I meant every word. Even the part about dinner with your father. Especially that part. If you're brave enough. Luke looked at Eva, who was skipping between them, holding both their hands. I'm brave enough for a lot of things lately, he said. Sunday dinner at Harold Cole's house was exactly what Luke had expected, and nothing like what he'd feared. The house was massive, cold, perfect, but Harold himself was smaller than Luke had imagined, older, more tired. So, you're the janitor, Harold said as they shook hands. I'm Luke, Luke replied steadily. Ava had insisted on coming, wearing her best dress and the paper crown from school. She'd made a new drawing for Harold, a stick figure family with everyone smiling. This is for you, she told Harold shyly. It's our family. You can be in it too if you want. Harold stared at the drawing for a long moment. When he looked up, his eyes were softer than Luke had ever seen them. It's beautiful, Harold said. May I put it on my refrigerator? Ava nodded solemnly, as if this were a very important decision. During dinner, Harold asked careful questions about Luke's work, his plans, his commitment to Ava, about Molly's recovery, about their family. Luke answered honestly. He didn't try to impress or deflect, just told the truth about loving Eva, supporting Molly, building something stable from broken pieces. And my daughter? Harold asked. What are your intentions there? Ava was coloring at the kids' table Harold had set up, close enough to listen but far enough to feel independent. I love her, Luke said simply. I want to build a life with her, a real life, with family dinners and school plays and everything that matters. Harold nodded slowly. Amara's never brought anyone to family dinner, not in 15 years. I know it's complicated. Son, Harold interrupted, I've been married to the same woman for 32 years. I know complicated. He paused, looking toward the kitchen where Amara was helping clean up. I also know what it looks like when someone's finally happy. Later, as they prepared to leave, Harold pulled Amara aside. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. For the first time in years, you're choosing with your heart instead of your head. Are you sure that's wise? Amara asked. Harold looked at Luke, who was helping Ava put on her coat, patient and gentle with every button. Wisdom is knowing when your head and heart want the same thing, Harold said. That man loves you. More importantly, he loves our Ava like she was his own. She's not. She's family. That makes her ours, too. On Thursday, Ava's school show was everything Luke had promised. Chaos, off-key singing, and pure joy. Ava stood on stage in her paper crown, belting out a song about community helpers. Her voice was too loud and slightly off-tune, and Luke had never heard anything more beautiful. Amara sat beside him, recording everything on her phone. When Eva spotted them in the audience, she waved so enthusiastically she nearly fell over. After the show, parents gathered in the hallway for pictures. Eva posed with her crown, with her classmates, with her teacher. Then she grabbed Luke's hand and Amara's hand and dragged them together. "Family picture," she announced. Other parents smiled and made room. Someone's dad offered to take the photo. Luke and Amara knelt on either side of Eva, who beamed between them. "Say cheese," the photographer called. "Cheese," Eva shouted. But Luke was looking at Amara, and Amara was looking at him, and both of them were thinking the same thing. This felt like home. Saturday afternoon, Luke was helping Eva plant flowers in the small garden behind their apartment building when Mr. Rivas appeared. "Luke," he said, "we need to talk." Luke's stomach dropped. He'd been waiting for this call, the official termination, the end of his job. "The board met yesterday," Mr. Rivas continued, "about your employment status." Luke stood up, brushing dirt from his hands. And Ms. Cole submitted a formal review of your performance, 3 years of perfect attendance, commendations from building tenants, no safety violations, and Mr. Rivas smiled. "A personal recommendation for Employee of the Month." What does that mean? It means you're not suspended anymore. It means you're back on full schedule Monday. And it means the board realized they were being idiots. Luke sat down hard on the garden bench. Relief flooded through him like cool water. "There's more," Mr. Rivas said. "Ms. Cole asked me to give you this." He handed Luke an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Luke, thank you for showing me what courage looks like. Your job was never really in danger, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew how much I value what you bring to our workplace. Also, Eva left another drawing on my desk. She drew us dancing. I hope that's prophetic. Amara." That evening, Luke called Amara. "Thank you," he said, "for everything, for fighting for me. Thank you for being worth fighting for. Amara, I have something to tell you about Eva." "What about her?" "CFS called today. My case is closed. Eva stays with us, permanently." The line was quiet for a moment, then Amara's voice thick with tears. "Luke, that's wonderful. There's something else, something I've been thinking about since dinner with your father." "What?" Luke took a deep breath. "I know this is fast, I know it's complicated, but Eva drew another picture yesterday, of our wedding. She drew herself as the flower girl, and you in a white dress and me in a tie." Amara laughed to sound like music. "She's very thorough with her planning. She asked me when we're going to be a real family, and I realized I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to be careful or practical or smart. I want to be brave. Luke, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I'm asking you to say yes to the possibility, to say yes to Eva's drawing and Sunday dinners and school plays and everything messy and beautiful and real." The line was quiet for so long Luke thought she'd hung up. Then, "Yes." "Yes?" "Yes to all of it. Yes to Eva's drawings and Sunday dinners and being brave. Yes to building something real with you. Even though I'm a janitor and you're a CEO? Especially because you're a janitor and I'm a CEO. Someone has to keep my feet on the ground." 6 months later, on a Sunday afternoon in Eva's school playground, Luke Bennett got down on one knee in front of Amara Cole and 24 6-year-olds who'd been sworn to secrecy. He'd saved for months to buy the ring. Nothing fancy, but real, like everything between them. "Amara," he said, his voice carrying across the playground. "Will you marry me and Eva? Will you be our family?" Eva stood beside him, holding a sign she'd made in art class. "Say yes, please." Amara looked at the ring, at Luke's hopeful face, at Eva bouncing with excitement, at the life they'd built together from broken pieces and brave choices. "Yes," she said, loud enough for the whole playground to hear. "Yes to all of it." Eva cheered and threw flower petals she'd been hiding in her pockets. Other kids joined in, screaming and laughing and making chaos. But Luke and Amara only saw each other, only heard each other, only felt the perfect rightness of choosing love over fear. Later, at the celebration dinner Harold had insisted on hosting, Eva stood on a chair to make a toast. "To my new family," she said, holding up a cup of apple juice. "Uncle Luke and Queen Amara and Grandpa Harold and Mommy and me. We're all different, but we're all the same family." "How are we the same?" Molly asked, smiling. Eva thought seriously for a moment. Then, Her face lit up. We all choose each other every day. And in that moment, in Harold's too-big dining room filled with laughter and love and second chances, Amara finally understood what her mother had never taught her. Family wasn't about what you looked like or where you came from. Family was about showing up every day, especially when it was hard. Family was about choosing love over fear and choosing each other over everything else. The little girl who'd once drawn their family in crayon had been right all along. They were exactly where they belonged,